raise it up, hang it up, and let's have our ushers come get them. You guys gonna come and collect for me? Yay, I got some questions. Hold them up so we can see it. Hold them up, hold them up, hold them up. Let's see what we're gonna talk about today. And as they're doing this, I have somebody gave me some little funnies, church funnies that I thought I would share this week. So I've got a couple of them for you while they're organizing that for me. So this is the story. A Sunday school teacher asked her class, what was Jesus' mother's name? One child answered, Mary. The teacher then asked, okay, who knows what Jesus' father's name was? And a little kid said, Burge. Confused, the teacher asked, where did you get that from? And the kid said, well, you know, they're always talking about Virgin Mary. I didn't say they weren't. I said they were funny. Okay. All right, so here's another one. I have been teaching my 3-year-old daughter, Caitlin, the Lord's Prayer for several evenings at bedtime. When you guys have them, bring them on up to me. It's fine. At bedtime, she would repeat after me the lines from the prayer. Finally, she decided to go solo. Wow, I gotta do this because we've got a lot here. Okay. I listened with pride as she carefully enunciated each word right up to the end of the prayer. Lead us not into temptation, she prayed, but deliver us from evil. And then one 4-year-old prayed, and forgive us our trash baskets as we forgive those who put trash in our baskets. I'm going to give you one more and then we'll get to it. Okay, a mother was preparing pancakes for her sons, I love this one, Kevin, 5, and Ryan, who was 3. And the boys began to argue over who would get the first pancake. Their mother saw the opportunity for a moral lesson. Well, if Jesus were sitting here, she said, he would say, let my brother have the first pancake. I can wait. And so Kevin, of course Kevin was the older one, turned to his younger brother and said, Ryan, you be Jesus. Oh my goodness. Wow, you guys got a lot of good questions. I think I pushed. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to start and we'll see where we go from here. This is going to be fun, right? It's fun, right? Okay. I'm a little nervous. My hands are a little sweaty today. All right. It's always fun, but I'm honestly a little nervous. Okay, so what are the long-term plans for CSL TV? In other words, what's the vision? I want to start with that one. You know, because it's part of what the idea and the goal for this year is. The idea and the goal for this year is to take, so I've been here for 4 years now. In December it was 4 years that I got here. And it's funny to me, after being in the church biz for a long time, how long it really takes to have transition and new growth and change happen in a spiritual community. You know, we get in and we get working together, you know, you go through the whole process of choosing and then calling the right person in and then kind of getting on equal footing and then you start moving. And it really, I expected when I got here that 6 months later we'd be like in the groove, like we're totally, fully, you know, completely manifested all the ideas that we had put out at the beginning, and that was a real hilarious joke to me after 6 months going, wait a minute, how many, wait, what? Where am I? And so it has taken a while for us to really deepen in this evolution of the community over these past 4 years. And one of the things that we have held as a vision for this spiritual community is to be truly a center for spiritual living. And I know it's a simple answer to that, but what it means is that this is a place that can be the center of people's lives for support. You know, the vision I have of when we get up and fully embody, fully manifest as to what the possibilities here are endless. So all the different areas of our lives we see could be fed and served and nurtured and supported here. So I've got a big vision for a health and wellness ministry. So we've got exercise and yoga and opportunity and Tai Chi and opportunities to learn about all of the things that we can do to nurture and support our health and well-being. That we have this is a place for our youth and our families to be served and supported. That this is a place where we join together and support our families when they hit rough patches with their kids. That it's a place where they can come and they can be supported and nurtured and guided into how to be supported for the parents and for the kids. We've got a vision of this being a place where we inspire people to live financially free, supportive, prosperous lives, because we know the spiritual principles that operate in our lives, and if we can embrace them and put them into practice, we know that people's lives thrive. And so the vision for this community is huge. It's huge. It's much bigger than I could even put my fingers on the edge of it, and it scares the out of me, to be honest, because it's so big. There's so many opportunities for support. And what we're trying to do now is to call in all of those who see the same way, who can step up and hold it, because this isn't something that I can do. It's not a one-woman or a one-person organization. This is what we do as a community. And so as people have been called to step into leadership in different areas in the center, we say, yes, okay, how can we support you in doing that? And so now, and that has led to our practitioners. The other thing is this year is our practitioners have stepped up and said, we want to be of more support to our people. Let us be of more support to our people. How can we do that? And so that's part of this whole idea of the sacred circles, is that as everybody gets into a small group this year, there's something about traveling along a path of growth and expansion when you're connected with other people. And so the idea of getting into a sacred circle this week and traveling for the next 4 weeks with your group, and then coming back once a month with that same group for the rest of the year, there's a commitment. If you're wanting to make some changes, if you're wanting to be supported this year, if you're wanting to really dig in and live a full, powerful spiritual life, and I think because you're here today, there's a part of you that feels like that. This is a great opportunity for you to do it. I encourage everyone, I would love to see everyone sign up for one of our circles, so that you can find those who are to travel with you, and that you can be connected. And so the vision of this center is to be a beacon at the center of this valley of Temecula Valley, that we call forth to all those who can be served by our message, that we create a safe, sacred space here so that people can let go of the wounds that we've been carrying and the negative ideas about ourselves and all of the challenges that we've gone through, that this could be a shelter in the storm of life. So you can get your feet under you. You can remember who you are and move back into your life creating from a different level, because we know it's powerful and it's possible. And so that's the vision that we're holding for this community. Answer that pretty well? All right. Okay. All right, so this one. I'm jumping right in. I'm going to, all right. Okay. So if prayer always works, why after months of prayer does my loved one still die? Okay, let's take a nice collective breath on that one. I told you I'm jumping in. All right, well. This is a hard one because most of us experience this. And it could be anything. If I pray on this, why does this still happen, right? The thing that we're praying against still happen. And why doesn't my partner get killed? Or why does my beloved die? Why do I still lose my job? Why does, and there's no why. There's no answer to the why. Sometimes a transition or a death is exactly what is needed for the healing. And it's not easy to say, and it's not easy to understand, and it's not easy to take. And I will admit that. But that doesn't mean it's any less true. So, this life is a gift, and we come into this life long enough to express our gift, to give what we've come to give and receive what we've come to receive. And then we move on. And we never know how long that is. It could be 6 months, it could be 120 years. We don't know. And somewhere in between. When we look at it from the spiritual perspective, when we look at it from a theoretical viewpoint, we remember that we believe that life is eternal. And so this is not our only rodeo. You know? This is not our only shot. This is not our only experience. We are on an infinite timeline, and we're looking at a small sliver that is this life. And so sometimes it's time to take that step. Ernest Holmes says in the chapter on immortality and the science of mind, which I could have with me just in case I needed it, but he says in that chapter, he says that nature and the universe is smart enough that she doesn't let us stay in one place any too long, or we would get too rigid, we'd get too stuck. And so life is just long enough for us to do what we're here to do and then move into that next evolution. So we, from the human standpoint, of course, it's never going to be enough. I remember when my father was getting ready to make his transition, I had just come back from visiting him, and we knew it was happening pretty quickly, and my boss turned around to me and said, "Fly back." And he said, "I'll buy you a ticket, fly back." And I said to him, and there were reasons why I couldn't do it in that time, and I remember saying to him, it will never be enough, right? When there's someone that we love, it'll never be enough time, and our hearts will break because we will miss them. But what I love about what Ernest Holmes talks about in terms of immortality is that a firm belief in immortality will rob our grief of its hopelessness. That though we will miss them, though it will be difficult, though we grieve their loss and the change in our lives, we can't be hopeless in thinking that they're done, they're not done, they've just moved on beyond before us. And he had a firm belief, and I've got that firm belief too, that we do meet our beloveds. There's too many stories of people making their transitions and seeing their loved ones coming to get them. There's too many independent stories about people seeing their beloveds come to take them by the hand when they make their transitions. And so I firmly have a belief that we do travel with our companions through this amazing journey that is the greater life. And though we can't always try and keep someone here, nothing's going to keep them here. But we can know that they don't end with that transition. Clear? Good? Did I answer it? Maybe I should have brought my glasses. Okay, what tools? I finally got to succumb and admit the fact that I need my glasses. Okay, what tools can we use that will help on a daily 24/7 basis to maintain inspiration, to see the good in all things, and to know we are never alone and always supported to succeed in the face of overwhelming fear? Okay, so what tools can we use that will help on a daily basis to maintain inspiration and to see the good in all things and to know that we're never alone and always supported to succeed in the face of overwhelming fear? Spiritual practice. Get into Reverend Michael's class. It's a spiritual practice situation. Having something on every day that keeps you connected. And a couple weeks back, I encouraged everybody to go out and find a place where you feel God. Okay? So I'm hoping that you did that. So if you find a place where you feel God, then you have a feeling of the presence of God, which is that force that's greater than you are, that loves you unconditionally and only wants your good, right? If you can find that place where you can feel that, that's where your God is. That's where your experience of the divine is. And so whatever's going to connect you to that on a daily basis. So and it's individual for each person, but I'll tell you, sitting down and allowing yourself some peace and to breathe and to connect for 15 minutes every day will make a huge difference for you, especially if it's new. finding something to put in. Remember, I was talking about how we are what we believe, and we are what we surround ourselves with in consciousness. So surrounding yourself with positive images and things that keep you focused on that truth will help you. So read the book of the month. Come to church, Do what you need to do on a regular basis. Learn how to do a prayer for yourself. Ask for someone to pray with you. Our practitioners are here for you. And yes, there are moments when fear comes up and it's something that we all have to deal with. We can't live in it, but you can't pretend it's not happening either. Because if you pretend that it's not happening, you're resisting it, and then it just gets really loud, right? And it manifests in a really big way. Acknowledging that you have I'm experiencing fear, I am afraid of this. Admitting that will allow you to move into what you really believe about the situation. Because it always comes down to this. Sometimes we have to drill down in it, but it always comes back to this. Do you believe that life is for you? Do you believe that there's a presence that loves you? Do you believe that this is a positive experience? Because if you do, then you need to lean into that belief. If you're experiencing out of control fear, my guess is that you have a little bit of a remnant, I'm being nice about it, you have a little remnant of a fear that is controlling your mind. And that means that you're afraid that you have to do it yourself, that you're not supported, that you're going to lose everything. Whatever that fear is, it can be consciously negated by a deep understanding that you are loved and that you are supported. And that this presence of life, this presence of God, this Spirit, wants only good for you. And so finding a way to connect with that every day is going to allow the fear to start to calm down. Okay? And you can also tell it to shut up. I like to do that sometimes. Okay. Oh, I got a good one. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm just going to keep going because this is good. These are big ones. Wow. Okay, I might need to tell a joke after this. All right. All right, so if God, and I forgot to look at the time. All right. So if God is in all things, where does evil come from? How can we come to terms with all the violence, discord, and oppression in our world? And where is God in all of this? That's a good question. That is a month of sermons and 2 classes. Okay. I was reading, I get so nervous about doing these things that I go back to the Science of Mind. So this morning I got up very early and I was in bed still. I didn't even get out of bed, and I'm like reading through my Science of Mind. And I'm like flipping from chapter to chapter going, okay. And then I realized I can't read the whole Science of Mind this morning. So I need to just let it be, So, but in there, what Ernest Holmes talks about is that the experience of what we would call evil is a misuse of the law, is what he calls it. So we use that law of cause and effect, that which brings all things into form, to create what it is that we experience in our lives. And so what happens is it works. It just works. The law works. Whatever you believe, think, you put into it, it comes out of it, right? And so it doesn't matter, and the law doesn't say, okay, well, you're a good person and you think good thoughts, so I'm going to manifest for you, but you think bad thoughts and you don't have, it's not a good thing if that happens, so I'm not going to work for you. The law doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. It just creates for everybody. And we can choose, we're the ones who are going to learn. So on a smaller level, individually, what we do is we learn that if I act this way, this is what I get from it. If I act this way, this is what I get from it. And then we have a choice. How do I want to act? It's kind of like we're all toddlers. Learning, right, that if I touch the iron, it's going to be hot. And that's not a good thing. Or if I act really well, I get a lollipop. We don't do that with our kids anymore, but what I'm talking about. So the idea of evil is that, and again, this is the theoretical view of this, okay? I'll talk about the experience of it in a second. So the idea is this, is that there is not an entity separate that wants to hurt us. There's not a devil. There's not something that is outside of the divine that wants to hurt, injure, or kill. But each of us is part of that, and each of us is putting our own experiences, our own filters, our own wounds on top of how things operate in our lives. And certain people make choices that lead them to other choices, that lead them to other choices, and what they end up on what I call the downward spiral. You get the picture of that? With me? Yes, no? Okay. So what ends up feeling like evil really is a divine unfoldment. We never know what the experience is for each of those people that's in that situation. So, that being said, God is in the middle of that. And what we know is that experience that we call evil cannot be maintained. Ernest Holmes says it, and if we look through history, those moments when someone is out to use the law for their own power and oppression of others, it cannot be maintained over time. Now that's not to say that there is not an experience of suffering. I'm not negating the fact that there is an experience of suffering and that there are really horrible things that happen in people's lives. I know that. I have walked the path of many people who have been through horrible experiences. But what I know is that when those situations happen, there is an opportunity for each person to step into their power, to find out something about themselves that they're stronger than they never would have known, to create something new, to support others. There are so many, there's a birth of so many positive things out of a lot of difficult situations that happen. And I'm not saying that makes it okay. It doesn't make it okay. But it makes us, when we look at it theoretically, we can start to see that there's a principle to it, that there's a growth and an expansion that happens because of it. And it is just the experience that happens. Now, what we're called to do when we see oppression, when we see things happening in the world, that's a different question. Each and every person is called in their own way to stand up and speak their truth. I want to remind you, a couple weeks ago I was mentioning that I got inspired by a friend of mine who was talking about how everything is whole, perfect, and complete just as it is, but we tend towards growth and expansion. So the truth of us is in any 1 minute, it is how it is, and there's an okayness in the middle of it, but we're not meant to stay there. We're meant to grow and expand. So for me, that answered a great deep question about how can I know that God's in everything and yet feel like something needs to change, right? Something needs to evolve. And I'll be honest, for me right now, the level of negativity and dysfunction and fighting that is happening in this world right now, I have a problem with that. I definitely have a problem with that and want to see us move in a direction of finding a way to hear each other more, to be present with each other, to allow people to have different opinions and still be in harmony. Because I think that's what this country was created on. That's the opportunity that we have. And so we are called to speak up when there is something that we see that is not right. When you are inspired, and we are called to be a place of peace and of harmony and safety in this world. And when we're called to speak it, we're called to speak it and to say that and to call out that which is separating us more. And so that's why we got the flags last year, because what we know is that what we put our attention on expands. And so when we put our attention on peace, it expands. When we put attention on acceptance of all the world's religions, it expands. When we put our attention on equality and acceptance and love, we know that it expands. And so that's how we can engage in a world knowing that God is in all of it, it doesn't mean that it's really okay. It means that it's evolving and that we're called to be part of that evolution. So I hope that answers that. Okay, I'm not getting all of them. But I gotta start from the bottom since I've done a couple from the top. Okay, let's see what this one is. This is a good one. They're all good. You guys are great. I love this. We should do this more. Okay. All right. So how do we stay in a peaceful, joyful place when loved ones are struggling? Anybody have that? Oh my goodness, how hard is that to handle? When we, one of the great things you learn when you're in practitioner training is how to be a place of empowerment and love for someone who's going through stuff, right? How to be able to see through what their experience is, to know that they have everything that they need. So this is the thing with loved ones. And we teach our practitioner students that the hardest thing for you to do is to be your practitioner for your family. It's really hard, right? My prac students in the room, yeah? Remember when I told you that? Yep, okay. So, because we love them so much, and we don't want them to hurt, and we don't want them to struggle. But the point of it is this, is that we are called to know, when you can look at someone and know that they have all the abilities and all the resources right where they are, that they can make a different choice and step out of their struggle and into a place of connection and into a place of creation in where, you know, with what they're trying to do, even just holding the space of knowing for them. That instead of seeing, well, they made stupid choices, and they forgot this, and they keep screwing it up, not holding our beloved ones to the judgments and opinions we hold about them, but to remember that they are a divine emanation of God. And just like each and every one of us, they have all of the power, and all of the possibility, and all of the potential of the infinite spirit right where they are. And so what I like to do, and I literally do this, when I see someone who's struggling, is I have a picture of them in my head, and I imagine that there's a light coming out from their heart, illuminating their path in front of them. It's a divine light of God that's within each and every one of us. It's part of us. And so it comes from them. And for me, I picture it illuminating their path and them stepping into that light. And for some reason, it works for me. My worry about them subsides because I know God's got their back. I know that they're fine. And that even though they're hurting, I can be a safe space for them to get out what the experience is, but they're the ones who are empowered to change their lives. And so I applaud you for partnering and traveling with your beloveds who are challenged. And just know that you can know for them that God is right where they are. All right, let's see. Oh, okay, this is a good one. Okay, as we set our intentions, this is a really good one. Yeah, I love this. Okay, you guys are great. I should have you write my sermons. Okay, so as we set our intentions, how do we reconcile the axiom, I made these plans and God laughed? Right? Because we're laughing because we all know that, right? We know what that feels like, right? So I made these plans and then God laughed. Okay, so this is how I think about this. So what we're doing is when we set our intentions, we're moving in a direction. And when I teach intention setting and goal setting and all of that, what I encourage us to think not about the actual thing. It's not about manifesting stuff like, you know, cars and parking spaces and houses and princes and all of those things, right? It's not about manifesting stuff. When we set our intentions, it's about an experience we want to have this year. It's on the experience level. Because I'll tell you, all this stuff comes, right? I'm not saying that stuff is bad. Stuff is not bad. It's okay. If you like stuff, it's good that you like stuff. It's fine. It's not a problem. But when we're setting our intentions, what we're doing is we're setting our intention of what we want to experience this year, of how we want to feel. And so it doesn't matter what it looks like. It just matters what if we're embodying what it is that we're wanting our life to be like. And so when the whole thing about God laughing is when we set an intention of, I'm going to go work for this company, and I'm going to move here, and I'm going to do that, and God says, yeah, right, you're not going to do that. And he picks you up by the scruff of the neck and drops you where you need to be, right? And that's kind of how it works. But the experience, I bet, of where you end up is where you wanted in the first place. It usually ends up being better than we thought. We have to trust the divine. So this is a trust situation. This is a setting our intention, setting our goal, getting clear about what we're wanting to experience, and then letting the universe bring it to us. Ernest Holmes says, I pulled it out, it's one of my favorite quotes. Ernest Holmes says, the founder of religious science, says in The Science of Mind, that all nature conspires to produce and manifest the freedom of the individual, that it may unloose its own energy. And so, all of spirit, all of nature, all the whole entire universe is conspiring for your freedom, for you to manifest what it is that you're wanting, so that it, God itself, can be expressed through it. It's all about the divine through you. And so as we can trust that, as we can trust that God is for us, we can begin to let go of some of that planning, telling God how, right? How do I know better than God does? The infinite, all-knowing creator of all the universe might know a little bit better about how to manifest what it is that I'm wanting to experience. So we get clear about what we want to experience, and we let the divine bring it to us. And then we laugh, because it's funny, when it's so different than what we think. Okay, so prayer question. All right, so we call our prayer, the kind of affirmative prayer that we do here, treatment, spiritual mind treatment. So this question says, when we do a treatment and send it into the law with gratitude that it is done, do we keep saying the same treatment? It seems like that's saying it's not done. All right, so I have two things to say about this. One is this. When I do my prayer work in the morning, I sit down in my chair and I do my prayer work, and then I get up and I go make tea or coffee or something. And if I do my prayers, I do my prayer list, and then I get up and I go to my kitchen and I make my tea. And if I'm pouring my tea and thinking or wondering about somebody that I prayed for, I have to go back and get back in my prayer chair. Because I'm not done. I'm not convinced that it's done. Right? When we do a prayer, we know so well that it's okay for the person. We know we stay with the prayer long enough until we are convinced that what it is that we're praying for them is complete. And if we think about it again during the day, we got to go back and do another prayer. Because I'm not convinced. Prayer is a movement in consciousness in the one praying. Prayer does nothing to God. It does nothing to the person we're praying for. It's a movement in consciousness of ourselves to align with the highest knowing of spirit as life. And so I have to be convinced. And if it pops up into my head, I wonder if they're feeling okay. I gotta go pray again. Go get my butt back in the chair and then start all over. The second thing is this. Even if you say you write a treatment, because in classes we teach people to write prayers. Say you write a treatment for something and you say it. And then you do the same exact one 3 hours later. It's not the same prayer. Because you are different in those 3 hours. So even if you're doing the same prayer, it's not. And so I said it's not like we're not trusting, but there's this idea of like trying to get through an iceberg. I don't even know if that one works. No, let's think about a dam. Like trying to get through a dam, right? Like every prayer is a little bit of a chisel. It's a little bit of a chisel. It's a little bit of a chisel. And then pretty soon, there's going to be one time when I'm going to chisel it and the water's going to start coming out. So, did that image work? Okay, good. I hope that one works. All right, so the idea is that every time you do a prayer, it's not the same thing. And sometimes we're working on our consciousness little by little of aligning with that knowing that God's got our back. And so we do this process over and over again, and it's never the same. And so I encourage you not to not pray. Whenever you're feeling off, whenever you're feeling not connected, sit down and do a prayer. Because it's the easiest way to systematically connect yourself with that infinite knowing. And if you're not familiar with that process, I encourage you to take Cease Foster's class that's coming up in February for our newcomers. It goes through treatment and it'll teach you how to do it. Okay. Oh, this is great. Have I said that after before? I think I have. Okay. All right, so I'm new to the philosophy. Please explain the benefit of a session with a practitioner. And what does a practitioner do? Our practitioners are here to support our congregation. They have gone through at least 4 or 5 years of study in the science of mind and in how to be a professional practitioner before they are licensed. It's a professional licensing process and program, and they all have to pass like a written test and an oral panel test. I mean, it's a legit thing. And what our practitioners do is they are trained to in spiritual mind treatment and in coaching to take what it is that you're challenged with and to find the root belief that's off on it. And so we believe that, we call them false beliefs, that we are holding on to some belief that is creating whatever the discord, the dissonance, or the chaos, or the difficulty in our lives. We believe that it stems from a belief that we're carrying around about ourselves, or about God, or about life. And so when you have a one-on-one session with a practitioner, you sit down and you talk about what's going on in your world, and you talk about what's happening, and they ask some questions to try and start to pinpoint what it is that you're really believing. Because that's what's manifesting, right? That belief is what's coming forward. If you've got chaos happening in your world, if you've got a challenge or a difficulty happening in your world, and especially if it's on a cycle, right? Like if it's like, oh, this is happening again, or it's happening in a couple different areas, those are really red flags for you to say, okay, there's something for me to look at. And if you can't figure out what it is to look at, that's the perfect time to call a practitioner. Because you can sit down with them, you can talk about what's going on, they can ask you some clarifying questions, and it's amazing to me. It's a little bit magical that after a little bit of conversation, all of a sudden there's a realization that happens. And in my 20 years of doing counseling, of doing practitioner work, I have never been the one to tell someone what the issue is for them. What happens is we just listen and hold the space, and it comes through you. It's a really powerful, transformative process. And if you are, if there's something going on in your world, I encourage you to get a prayer at the end of service, or call a practitioner and have a session. Just try it out and see. It's supportive. They're wonderful and supportive. Oh, a 2 to 3 minute synopsis of what type of church do you attend? Does anybody get that question? What kind of church is your church? I do, don't you? Okay. All right. So what type of church are we? We are an open, welcoming, inclusive spiritual community. We are considered inclusively Christian, which means that we believe in the teachings and we believe and follow the teachings of Jesus. And we also believe that there's sacred spiritual truth throughout all the religions. That's what we believe. And we follow the teachings of Jesus. And so we are an open, welcoming, and inclusive community. Those are the key words. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps you in trying to craft your own way of talking about who we are. Okay, what's the most successful procedure to pray for others? Have a practitioner pray with you for someone else and learn spiritual mind treatment. Where is all this going? What does your crystal ball tell you about the future? Oh, I like that one. I'm assuming we're talking about what's happening in the world right now. I think what's happening right now is waking us all up to the truth of our being. I think what's happening right now is waking us all up to be aware that we have choice as to how we operate in this world. I think that it's waking us up to see what we've pretended has been taken care of, swept under the rug and pretended that doesn't exist anymore, realizing that we still have some challenges in our society, and we still have some challenges in our world that need to be addressed and looked at. I think that this is the beginning of a rebirth of and a resurgence of kindness and of respect. And this is just my prayer is that this is the birthing pains of that, because I think we are soon going to be seeing we're starting to already, but I think soon we're going to be seeing the effect of 2 years of disrespect. And I think that that's not a comfortable experience for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are going to who have not acknowledged this, are going to wake up and say, no, it's important that we respect one another, that we listen to one another, and that we're kind. And so maybe that's my hope, but that's what my intuition is telling me. Oh, and so what do you say when someone asks, are you a Christian church? We're an inclusively Christian church, not exclusively Christian. They don't like that sometimes. Sometimes they don't. But we believe, like I said, we follow the teachings of Jesus. I speak from the teachings of Jesus every week, whether I actually say Jesus' name or not. It all comes from that. And so that's basically who we are. All right, I'm going to do one. Ooh, I got to go. All right. You guys are we're ready for a workshop. Okay. Oh my goodness, I think I'm gonna keep these. Okay. All right, how do you balance faith with everyday family issues, work issues, difficult people, family challenges, and obligations? This is why we're here. This is exactly why we're here, and I'm going to end on this one. And I'm going to hold on to everything else. And we'll talk about all of those in a minute. Okay. This is who we are, and this is why we're here. So how do we balance our faith with everyday family issues, work issues, difficult people, family challenges, and obligations? So this is the work. This is why we're here. So each of us has an experience, has an opportunity when something like this happens, when a challenge with somebody else comes up, right? We have a choice whether we're going to engage in this from what we know to be true spiritually, or whether we're going to sidestep it. Can we navigate our lives from that place of what we believe, that we listen to somebody, that we respect them, that we realize that they are a divine child of God just as we are, and allow them to have a different belief than we do, and have them act differently than we do, but still have a space of respect and acknowledgement? Can we remember that in the challenge with one of our children, that God is right where they are? When they're making choices that we don't like, right? Can we know, for our teenagers, can we know that they are supported and safe and taken care of? Can you know that for them? And act from a place of knowing that. So what it means is, how we find the balance of it is that each of us has to have a strong spiritual practice so that we are steeped in the knowing and we're steeped in the principles, so that when this stuff comes up, it's not trying to figure out, if I was spiritual, how would I do this? No, we have a spiritual practice so that it's second nature as to who we are. This is the goal of what we're trying to do. We are trying to incorporate what we learn with what we know deep, soulfully, and how we act in this world, to be an integrated, authentic expression of who we have come here to be. That's the goal. That's the vision of what each of us steps into. We step into our power. We step into our knowing. We step into our creative abilities fully. And when we can do that, then, come on, life, give me what you got, right? Because you can handle anything. Because you're supported, you're centered, and you're steeped in the knowledge that it's all God, as are you. So I hope that's helpful.